Today we're going to talk about ethics and worldview in instructional design. So Matthew 5:13 says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." This is regarding the Christian worldview of ethics. It is talking about the integrity of, well, and this one it says saltiness, but it's for the individual. If you lose your integrity, how can you have integrity be made again? So when we think about ethics, we're thinking about not only the integrity of the instructional designer, but also of the company and of society in which we are performing in. So we're going to be talking about ethics and instructional design, Christian worldview in ethics in regards to instructional design, and then teaching ethics to our students or towards others in our profession. So ethics and Christian worldview. Here we go. So here are the different areas of ethics in instructional design. One, the user. The user, in this case, this would be the learner, the person who is using the product. So professional instructional designers have a responsibility to protect the user and his or her personal rights. That means that we need to be looking out for the best interests of the person who is using our products. That means that we need to make certain that it's accessible to everyone. We need to make certain that that there's opportunities to participate in an appropriate program, that we need to conduct professional business. That means that we need to have integrity in how we are relating. And these are just some of the areas for the user that we need to protect and have their best interests in first and foremost in our heads as we are producing the products that they're going to be using. Society is another one that we're going to be looking at. So the representation of the product and of themselves, the people who are creating instructional materials, must stay above board and honest. So this is huge. We cannot represent the institution or the organization dishonestly. We can't say, "Hey, this product is amazing," and market it on that scheme if it's not amazing. And then for the profession, instructional designers must have professional interactions with colleagues, clients, AEC team members. They must be above reproach with copyright and infringement laws. So what this is saying is that we need to treat others how we would want to be treated, which is also Matthew 7:11. So too, going into that Christian worldview, Micah 6:8, we're going to be talking about this in terms of the user. And it says, "Mankind, he has told you what is good, what it is the Lord requires of you to act justly, to love faithfulness, and to walk humbly with your God." We are specifically targeting this towards how we interact with the user or how we are creating products for the user. We need to do it with justice. We need to do it with consistency and faithfulness of how we are creating these products. And ultimately, we need to be humble and look at them first and say, okay, what is the best interest for the person I'm creating this product for? Does this measure up to, if I'm the user, how I would want this product to be aimed at me? Yes or no? And then towards society, we have Philippians 2:3-4, and it says, "Do nothing out of rivalry or conceit, but in humility, consider others as more important than yourselves. Everyone should look out not only for his or her own interests, but also the interests of others." And that's specifically for society because we are looking at the fact that we need to be honest and above reproach with the products that we are creating and also how we are treating those in society. And this one says just that. Consider others as more important. Look out for those needs. Make certain that your level of quality measures up whatever you say your product is, it needs to be. Profession. So how we are treating others in the profession. We're looking at Galatians 5:22-23 and 25. This is looking at the fruit of the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, or faith, gentleness, self-control, and against such things there is no law. Since we live by the Spirit, we must follow the Spirit. We must not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. And that's how we should be handling others in our profession. It goes towards those copyright laws that we were going to be looking at, or going away from plagiarism, making certain we give others the credit that they are due. And it all comes down to the fruit of the Spirit, loving others, being full of joy in how you interact with them, making certain that the interactions that you have with others produces peace and not provoking them to anger, having patience, having kindness, having goodness. Goodness means not only good work, but also how you are interacting with others, having that good quality. Faith, being consistent with who you are and what your work is producing. Gentleness, self-control. And 3, we're going to be talking about how we're teaching ethics to others. Now that we know what ethics is in ID and how Christians have ethics and how we are supposed to be living with God as our first and foremost person that we're going to be comparing our lives against, because he says you need to be holy because I am holy. Going back up, we're going to go back up to this one. Being holy, therefore, because I am holy. That is who we are, telling the world that we have that same value. We still have that holiness. Holiness means being set apart. And so if we are being set apart from others, how do we do that? It's through these Christian values, making certain that we are staying above board with all of our interactions, not only with user society, but also the profession. And that's not just at work, that's also in our daily lives and at church. Okay, so going back to teaching ethics, now that we're here, there are 5 different pinpoints that we're going to be talking about with teaching ethics. TEDx talked about how in order to teach others, the best measure to do it is through questioning. Snelling agrees with this, but she adds on to it. So there are 5 points that she makes, and here we go. So number 1 is recognizing ethical issues. In order to teach ethics, you need to recognize it. And for students, they need to be able to recognize ethical issues before they can start applying ethics in their own lives. So here we go. How do we recognize ethical issues? We do it through discussing current events. We do it about talking about all of the different sides of the events and then the outcomes that are based on the event. So we're going to be looking at, okay, we're going to pretend that the issue is 2 kids at school got in a fight. Why? Well, who started it? Why did they start it? What outcomes, because these 2 got in a fight, what were the outcomes based on this event? And then talking about all of the different perspectives about this one event. Now, it's not just talking about real life scenarios at school. It's talking about bigger issues, current events, as in also looking at the things that pop up in the news. And daily, there is something that pops up in the news to use in the classroom and go, okay, let's look at all sides of this point. We're not going to get drawn into the nitty gritty of this is Republican versus Democrat, or this is this nation versus that nation. We're going to take that apart and go, okay, what is the issue? Well, let's look at it from all different sides of the issue. And then what were the outcomes based on what this was? But that also means that they also need to know about the background knowledge of the current event. They need to know the vocabulary, the history behind this event, and then the context of what happened at that moment of the event. What happened a little bit before, what happened during, what happened after. And then we need to talk about the different options. What if this person handled it differently? What about this happening instead of that? Why did this occur? These are different ways that you can use the questioning methods. And there's lots of other what ifs or what abouts or whys. Your students can definitely help you with all of these different questions because students have lots and lots and lots of questions that are amazing. So decisions and outcomes. Now we're going into having that group discussion with the peers, discussing who wins in this circumstance, who loses, who does it help, who does it hurt, and then there's other questions such as those to think through the outcomes or the decisions that were made and the ultimate. And then what happened? What was the final draw of this? And then lastly, reflection, pro, con list, looking at the different lenses through social, moral, health, wellness, environment, and societal. And lastly, we're going to end with, therefore be imitators of God as dearly loved children, Ephesians 5:1. And this is from Holman Christian Standard Bible, 1999/204. And what we're looking at for this one is what our viewpoint should be is being imitators of God. Jesus came down to live his life on earth, and he did it marvelously. And that should be the person that we are looking at as we are relating towards others, who we should be imitating. And it's not just Jesus. God has people throughout the Bible from Genesis all the way to Revelations. And he says, here's a circumstance. Think through it ethically. Who is right? Who is wrong? And he has ethics in the Bible up one side and down the other with great, great moral compasses that it goes, this was wrong. Here's why. And he did that to the kings. So looking at First and Second Kings, he did that throughout First and Second Kings. This is wrong. And the prophets called the kings out and said, this is wrong. And this is why, or this king did a great job. This is why. So looking at teaching ethics, you can even do it in your Christian circles. And so here are my references.